Good afternoon, Pastor Rob. How are you?
I am doing good, and it is not my birthday.
Yeah. We didn't think it was. We did get to sing to Rick, and I know that you guys have been together the last couple of days. Hey, thanks for taking time to come and be part of what we're doing here. You know, we've got until about 20 minutes till the hour for you to share, because we want to make sure and give time for some question and answers in this next part. But who we have in the room is about 110 pastors and leaders from around the state of Oregon. You've invested in Oregon before. You've been around the state, played golf in a lot of the areas, but we got some of the best in the room, and we're glad that you can join us. Why don't you say hi to Pastor Rob? I'm just going to turn it to you, Rob, and we will have Kevin, who will be collecting questions at the end. When you're ready, you let Kevin know, and he'll step to a mic. You'll be able to see him well, and he'll let you know the questions that we have to ask. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. You're right. I have loved Oregon, been out there a couple of times, and anytime you need me to come back, I mean, I will suffer and go to Bend and Bandon and all those other beautiful golf courses that you have. So thanks for having me out there. And I thought I saw Bill right before this, but yeah, we were just with EP and had a great time there. And as we get started here, I don't know what you can see on the picture, but people usually ask about this bowling pin here. And I talked about don't forget where you come from. And I did a sermon, and I just talked about don't forget where you come, how far God has brought you. And I said that my grandfather was actually the manager at a bowling alley, and he started out setting up bowling pins in the back before there were machines, and he was actually a bowling pin setter back in there. He was just coming straight from the farm. And I said that was his first job that wasn't on the farm. And then he eventually became the manager of the bowling alley, retired from the bowling alley. And in the mail, I got sent like 10 bowling pins from people in the church. They're like, never forget. And they sent me bowling pins. So I kept that one. I liked that one. It kind of was used and reminded. So people always ask, like, why is there a bowling pin? And then, you know, I think there's a Rockstar energy drink there. We usually give a Rockstar energy drink at our all staff. We say, who's the rock star of the month? And we give them a Rockstar energy drink. And then the other little red cup that's in the background, that was from, I actually served kids porridge from Kenya. We were in Kenya and we were serving them porridge from a swimming pool, and these kids were coming in for breakfast, and you know, I'm crying as I'm like realizing how blessed I am. And I said, can I please take one of those red cups to never forget? And I don't know, there's, if I was to spin around my office, you'd see things everywhere that have meaning and tell stories. And I love things that tell stories. So anyways, people always ask about the bowling pin, so I thought I'd start there and go from that. But as we were talking, as Leah and I were talking about this time together and your theme for the year and the reset that you've been, you know, just all the different things you've been talking about, I couldn't help but think of two different teachings that I've done, and then a tool that I want to give to you. And I think that's what you were referencing, that you're going to send that out to everybody. If you don't have it there, I might hold it up to the camera and let you see it, but I want you to get it. I want everybody to get it. We're so excited about it. This tool, we designed it as a church, and we think that we're going to ship this around and help training and development of people with it. So I'll jump into it. Our theme for the year as a church is called Take Ground. And every year when we start the year, I have a theme, I have goals, I have giving goals, attendance goals, water baptism goals. I challenged the church. I challenged every one of our 9 campuses. I challenged them all to add another service. I said, we're going to take ground this year. I want you to add a service. I don't care when it is. You can add an extra Sunday morning service. You can make it an acoustic worship service at 8 a.m. if you want and try to go after a different crowd. You can make it a dinner service Sunday night with tables and serve a meal. You can do a Monday night service and try to go after people that are in the restaurant industry that can't come to church. I don't I don't care when you do it, what you do. You can start a language service and do that and get that started. I said, everybody's got to start an extra service to try to take ground. We'll see how many are still standing at the end of a year of trying these services, but we're going to take ground. And it was coming partially out of wanting to reactivate our congregation that coming out of COVID, feels like people were like, we survived. And our new normal became a new comfort level. And prior to COVID, I mean, everything was up into the right. We were up into the right. New campus, grow, add a service, more people. Come out of COVID, we're way down, 40% of what we were. We've clawed back to being about 80 to 85% of what we were. And I was like, I'm just not content. I'm not just going to settle on giving us up, attendance is down. Let's get back to taking ground. And so that became our theme. And I challenge our church with obviously James 1:22, do not be merely listeners of the word and deceiving ourselves. Do what it says. We're going to be doers of the word. We're going to get out there and do what God wants us to do. And when I look at the Bible and you look at the Old Testament, you look at the New Testament, I mean, I look at the Old Testament, it was take ground. There was literal ground that they were supposed to take and possess the land. I love what Deuteronomy 11:24, God is speaking to Moses. He said, every place upon which the soles of your feet tread will be yours as boundaries, from the desert to Lebanon, from the river that is the Euphrates to the Mediterranean Sea. He's like, I promise you this. I want you to go wherever you're going to take this ground. Then God repromises it to Joshua in Joshua 1:3. He says, I'm giving you every place where the sole of your foot falls, just as I promised Moses. Like I promised Moses that he was going to take ground. And now I'm promising you that you're going to take ground. And I think it's interesting with Joshua, God had to tell him, now don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. With Moses is making excuses. And God's like, have I not created the mouth? Come on, I've got this. And God's dealing with Moses. And it's almost like he preemptively overcomes Joshua's objection. Joshua's like, I'm sure he's inside thinking, I'm kind of afraid. I'm not sure. And God's like, no, don't be afraid. Like, don't even throw that one to me. I'm with you. Don't be afraid. And he might need to tell you even right now when you're looking to take ground or move forward or not stay in the old, but reset and move forward. Don't fear. I'm with you. You're not, it's not by what's just in your hands. It's in my power. And so, but I believe God's will is for us to take ground. When I look at the Great Commission, it's no longer land that needs to be taken or defended, but it's people. It's more important than land. It's people. And God's like, I want you to take ground. I want you to go into all the world. I want you to make disciples. I want you to baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Okay, so he's with us, but he's saying, go take back what the enemy stole. Go take back those people that are captive. Go get those people that I've redeemed. And the church's mission is to take ground. Some churches, it's like, I'm just gonna limp in. Some are content with staying where they are. And I don't think if you're there, you're content with staying put. There's something in you that says, I want to advance. I want to take ground. I want to go forward. According to missions experts, the church, capital C, has 3,000 times the financial resources and 9,000 times the manpower to finish the Great Commission. Think about that. We have 3,000 times the finances that are needed and 9,000 times the manpower needed, but we've got to get people to part with the money and sow it into the kingdom of God. And we've got to do what Jesus said, pray the Lord of the harvest that he would send forth laborers, and the word really means like kick them out, move them, so we just got to pray that our people will want to take ground, that our people will want to go, that our people want to be active in this, and that they'll want to give because the money's there and the people are there, but are we challenging them to go out and take ground? And I'm believing that we're going to have to sacrifice. We're going to have to lose sleep. I'm inspired by secular leaders, by the demands they place on their organizations that are not nearly as important as the kingdom of God. Um, I know that we always are worried that people are going to quit and leave, but I've been learning that people love a challenge. And if I can keep them busy enough in a challenge um, that's bigger than them, they'll have less time to fight each other. So I'd rather have them busy. But my father-in-law used to tell me, he said, churches are like, um, he said, like the military on a battleship. If there's no battle being fought, the people on the ship fight with each other. But as soon as there's a battle going on, they engage and fight the enemy. So I try to keep them busy enough to fight the enemy, not each other. But I'm inspired by secular people that demand things that high commitment. Like in one of my books, I forget which one, but I talked about the movie about Steve Jobs with Ashton Kutcher. That's the one where he was playing Steve Jobs, and he fires this guy. He said, "You're out. You're gone." And they said, "You just fired the best programmer we have." And he said, "No, I just fired the best programmer that doesn't love what we do." And I was like, revival in the movie theater. I was like, yes, like, let's do this. And speaking of being challenged, recently, when Elon Musk was dealing with the same thought, like, we're going to take ground. We're going to take ground as Tesla. He said to everyone, he said, to be clear, everyone at Tesla is required to spend a minimum of 40 hours in the office per week. Moreover, the office must be where your actual colleagues are located, not some remote pseudo office. If you don't show up, we will assume you've resigned. The more senior you are, the more visible must be your presence. That's why I lived in the factory so much, so that those on the line could see me working alongside them. If I had not done that, Tesla would long ago have gone bankrupt. And he says, there are, of course, companies that don't require this, but when was the last time they shipped a great new product? It's been a while. Tesla has and will create and actually manufacture the most exciting and meaningful products of any company on earth. This will not happen by phoning it in. Amen. And I read that, by the way, everything I'm telling you, I read to my church. I read to the church and I laid it out there. And we're taking ground. And so that's been our challenge. And then, of course, for our church, I gave a whole list of here's ways you can take ground. Here's things you can do. Here's responsibilities that you can do. I think I have that right here. I said, take ground with the lost. Are you going to invite somebody to Alpha? Take ground with freedom. Are you going to take back the ground that is yours and be free of the things that have held you back? Take ground in your devotion life. Take ground with our 21 days of prayer and fasting. Take ground with your thought life. Take ground with small groups. I said, too many of you have been attenders, and it's time for you to lead and take ground. Take ground by going on a missions trip, a global team. Take ground by serving. Take ground with your kingdom builders. And then I personally shared that my wife and I, and by the way, our kingdom builders is our over and above giving. It's our generosity tool. We have tithe and kingdom builders. I said, Becca and I, God has called us to give 30% more than we did last year. We're taking ground. And I gave them a percentage, not a dollar amount, because I wanted people to ponder that. Like, are we going to take ground or not? And I said, some of you might want to go and be a part of our new campus launch. And maybe you're only going to be there for a year, but you're going to help start our 10th campus. We're going to take ground this year. So that's been our theme, and that's what we've been doing. And then I taught this for my staff the other day. And I talked about, if we're going to take ground, we have to expand our capacity. And that came into part of the thing of wanting another service. But also realizing that the church had limiters on capacity that were keeping us from reaching people, and we had limiters as leaders. And so plenty of time here. One of the things is, if you've never had to teach on Zoom, by the way, I can see the crowd, but you lose the verbal feedback, and you lose the sometimes when you're preaching and you're in the room, you're like, okay, let me pause there. You know what I'm talking about? But we lose a little bit of that. So if I'm talking too fast, thank God this is recorded, and you can come back and watch that key section again. But you get way more content when you do a Zoom presentation than when you do a live presentation. So you're getting extra content. So with our Take Ground, I preached to our church, interestingly, the prayer of Jabez. I mean, that's bringing old school. Some of you did prayer of Jabez back in the day, and I brought it back. I said, we're going to pray, Lord, increase our territory, like increase, like that's going to be a prayer that we're going to pray on a weekly basis. And I want you to write it down. You don't need to pray it word for word, but pray this out. And so we've been praying, expand our territory, but I want us to realize that we need to expand our capacities in our church. If we're going to go to the next level, if we're going to reset, if we're going to go to the next level and do new things for God that he's asked us to do, we have to expand our capacity. And some of the things are so off. Some of them are natural and some of them are supernatural, but we have to expand our capacity. And I love sharing this with leaders. If I have a 10 pickle jar in front of me, how many pickles can I fit in a 10 pickle jar? 10. 10 is what I can fit in there. Now, if I pray and fast, how many pickles can I fit in there? 10. 10, that's it. 10. If I bind the devil, I can only fit 10 pickles in a 10 pickle. That's it. That's it. And so when it comes to this, some of our problems in increasing our capacity are just natural. And we just need to learn from somebody like, okay, you want more people to come to your church, but you have 32 parking spots and your auditorium seats 200. Do you do the math there? We're not getting, 8 per car. Like, that's not happening. And so some of it is just natural. The other day I went crazy. I was out in Oregon. You guys had no snow. We have had a record amount of snow. Like, even when we think the snow is done, we get 12 more inches and 18 more. It's like all of America's snow is coming to Minnesota right now. And I told all of our campus pastors, you don't realize they've been snow plowing and pushing the snow in your parking lot, but not all the way out of the parking lot. And we have lost like 35% of our parking capacity. And some of our places have no ability. I said, you should be up at night trying to figure out how can we get those parking spots back? Like, what do we need to do? Do we need to get one of those big giant snow blowers to clear? Like, because no matter how hard we pray, we can't park the people in the lot. So it's going to become a limiter to our capacity. And I noticed this in our history of our church growth. I charted our church growth, and I noticed that usually whenever we increased our capacity, we saw growth. We went from a elementary school to a middle school, bigger room, more parking. We saw growth. We went from the middle school to a building. We saw growth. And it wasn't just things that we bought buildings. Like, we hired a new kids pastor that increased our capacity to minister to children, which increased more retention of families. There were all those things that were there that helped us to increase our capacity. And by the way, a definition for capacity is this: the potential or suitability for holding, storing, or accommodating. The potential or suitability for holding, storing, or accommodating. Now, obviously, we're not storing people, but we need to hold them in the room. We need to keep them on the journey. That's part of capacity. And then we've got to accommodate them. Like, again, can we minister to all the people that God sends to us? Like, people will tell me, like, I want to grow by 1,000. And I'm like, well, tell me, what are you going to do to accommodate that capacity? How are you going to hold the capacity? And they're like, I don't know. I just want it. Well, they're practical steps that you need to do, and they're spiritual steps. What happens when we can't park them, sit them, teach them, even let them mingle? Like, I've seen churches that don't have a big enough lobby, and they wonder, why in the world are we not retaining? Well, you get done with church and you just make people run. And I was at one church and I said, well, how are you going to solve it? And he said, I don't know. I said, you know what? You're going to have to end your worship service and have clear altar time and then have coffee in the back and then say that this becomes the place where you bring your kids, have a big enough turnaround time for your next service. You got to solve the problems. You just have to keep solving the capacity issues. But on a personal level or a professional level, maybe it's more personal. That's professional. What happens when we don't return their emails? We're saying we don't have the capacity. What happens when we don't follow up on the visitor? We're saying we don't have the capacity. What happens when we don't return their phone calls? What happens when we don't have the ability to care for their needs? We have to increase our capacity over and over and over again, find solutions, lose sleep, increase our capacity. Now, in increasing our capacity, here's another area. It's not just a physical thing. Like I've been talking a lot about parking lots, seats, lobbies. But let's talk about this, increasing your capacity with excellence. Each week is a new Sunday built on the previous Sunday. And the people that have been coming to your church for a while have a historical account building of, are you excellent or not? But a visitor comes to church and they have no historical account of excellence. And so this is their one shot. They're at zero and now they're judging you. And are you going to have excellence? Are you going to have every room is staffed? Is your band with excellence? Was the service done with excellence? And if it's not, you may lose people. We almost lost one of our key families who brought in like 4 other key families because one weekend years ago when the church was about 200, we just had a bad day. We had a bad day. And they said, that was a terrible church. And their friend said, really? Like, we've been there a lot. It's been good. They said, the day we went, it was terrible. And they said, would you be willing to come back? And the friend talked him into coming back one more time. And because that, they were like, oh, this is way better than last week. I don't know what happened. Probably it was the youth pastor preaching. I was out of town or something. I don't know. But occasionally doesn't lead to amazing results. Predictable excellence leads to amazing results. And so you've got to increase your capacity to deliver an excellent church service, an excellent time of ministry, an excellent week of ministry, week in, week out. I went to Chick-fil-A in Florida. I was in Fort Myers, went to Chick-fil-A, and I was expecting excellence. I've had excellence at Chick-fil-A over and over and over again. And I go up there and I got this chicken sandwich. It was the worst chicken sandwich I've ever had at Chick-fil-A in my life, ever. I ate half of it and stopped eating. It was just terrible. It was grisly. It was just terrible. And I walked up to the manager and I said, hey, I just want you to know I'm here on vacation. This was by far the worst Chick-fil-A sandwich I've ever had. Now, I've had historical excellence, and so I'm not going to give up on Chick-fil-A, but I literally want to tell you, like, this is the worst. And he's like, I'll make you a new one. I said, you know what? I just kind of right now need a reset on my palate. And he's like, I'll give you a free one. I was like, I don't need a free one. Here's what I know as a leader. I want to know when I'm not achieving excellence because I know I can achieve excellence. So I just wanted to give you the feedback. And my wife was dying. She was just like, I cannot believe you do that. I said, they want to know. They want to know that they served a bad one, you know? And the other day I was at the one right by our house. It was the best. Like, if I could grade a Chick-fil-A sandwich, it was the crispiness I wanted. It was perfect. And I was like, guys, you nailed it. Excellent. I want to give that feedback, you know, so, but occasionally doesn't do it. The other day I was going to our Crosstown campus and they were having their pre-service prayer meeting, which we do a half hour, 40 minutes to 30 minutes before service, because we want it to end and then be in ready position for the visitors that are coming. A lot of people do their prayer meetings right up until right at the time of the service. And then they wonder, like, all those visitors didn't get taken care of. So we go early, but for some reason our campus pastor was going long, and I don't think it was like Asbury revival, you know, it wasn't that. It was just long, it was drawn out, and the signs didn't get out. Well, I unannounced showed up at that camp. No signs for parking, no signs to get through the neighborhood, no signs at the lot. Man, I was like, guys, there's somebody coming for the first time, and that's not excellent. Increase your capacity, get people out there early. I don't care what you do, you've got to increase your capacity and exceed expectations. Here's another thing. If we're going to increase our capacity though, and we're going to give a greater return for our efforts, we're gonna have to cut back on things that don't work. We're gonna have to, and that's really hard. John 15:1-2, you know that verse that it talks about, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes that it'll be even more fruitful. I'm not an expert on grapevines, but I read this, and it said that they can grow like 20 feet long. And it said, in the first 5 feet of the grapevine, there's fruit. In the next 3 feet, there's leaves, no fruit. And then everything past that 8 feet going up to 20 feet is wood stick. Now, it's easy. Not even a great leader can say, hey, the wood stick isn't doing anything, we'll cut that. Where you show that you're serious about getting a return for God, and where you show you're serious is, can you cut back the leafy stuff? The leafy stuff, the stuff that looks good but isn't bearing any fruit. I mean, it's easy to kill the small group that's 3 people that nobody's coming to. It's easy to kill the ministry that's losing, you know, $25,000, and you're like, hey, done, we don't have that money. But what about the one that's breaking even, that's using a ton of manpower, that really isn't keeping you on mission, but just keeping you busy? Like, I'm having our staff evaluate our Christmas spectacular. Everybody loved it. They were like, oh, we sold 2 performances and everything. Well, how much did we spend? And they're like, we spent, you know, after tickets, you know, we still had to subsidize it $20,000. I was like, so we sang Christmas carols for people, and it cost us $20,000. And it took a night of everybody's job, and we had 4 rehearsals plus everything leading up to it. Like, I need to see, did we give an altar call? Like, I missed it. I was out of town on a mission trip. I said, did we give an altar call? They're like, no, we didn't give it. I was like, okay, so we didn't get people saved for $20,000. We literally sang Christmas carols for $20,000. Like, they're like, it was amazing. And I'm like, that's looking a little pretty leafy to me. There's no fruit. Like, y'all are going to be complaining you want days off and you're tired. And so I'm like, we have to figure out how this is going to bear fruit, or I'm going to have to cut the leafy thing out. How many know that's hard though? Because I might offend my music pastor, all the people that loved it, the guy that plays the French horn that never gets to be on the worship team, got to be in the music spectacular. And I got to think those things through. But if it's just leafy, I want to bear fruit. I want to take ground. So they're gonna have to the cost of leaving those things in place is less fruit, and so I want more fruit. All right, let me deal with personal capacity, and then I'll get into the people strategy with the competencies. I'll go quick through this. Your personal capacity has to increase. I said this to my staff, and I said, you might be the limiting factor. You might be the capacity problem that the church is having, because you don't have the gifts to go to the next level. You are not growing. Like, we hired you here and we expected you to grow to here, but you just stayed here. You have to keep growing. You have to. And the good news I told my whole staff is you can keep growing. Neuroplasticity says that your brain can keep growing. You can keep adding to it. You can add things to your intelligence, to your understanding. So you have that capacity, but are you doing it? Are you increasing your capacity? And you've got to keep increasing your capacity, because if you don't, you're just going to get stressed out. And I think there's a lot of things that cause stress, but one of the things that we don't talk about is our capacity is not growing as a leader, so more stress is coming to us. And so you've got to keep growing. Our ability to increase our spiritual capacity is proportional to our time reading and studying the word, to our time praying, to our time worshiping, to the generosity that we exhibit by faith, giving beyond our needs, our means, knowing that God's our source, to our growth by other books we read and time we spent with there's a capacity thing. So I'll give you these quick because I really want to get to this next one. If it's you personally, when was the last time you asked God to increase your capacity? Prayer of Jabez 20 years ago? Like, we should be praying, God, increase my capacity. Every year I pray for a virtue or a spiritual gift to increase in my life. If you were to look at my prayer journal right now, you would see that I am praying for prophecy to increase in me, the gift of prophecy to increase. I literally am asking God, increase my capacity. And it's a prayer request. And I've had other years where I've said, God, increase my compassion, increase, whether it's a virtue or a spiritual gift. I even know that I have the gift of faith. And I'm like, God, even though I have the gift of faith, would you increase the gift of faith in my life? I'm asking God to increase my capacity rather than complaining about it. The other thing is, in order to increase our own capacity, we've got to charge outside of our comfort zone. We've got to get outside of our comfort zone, stretch our thinking, increase our understanding, do things we've never done, try for things that we previously thought were impossible. We're going to increase our capacity. Another thing to increase your capacity, which similar to the last part of number one, but keep learning new things. Read, go to podcasts, get in a cohort like you're doing, go to counseling, go to a conference, go to college, finish your degree, get a master's degree, doctorate, hang out with other great leaders. This is keep learning new things. In order to increase your capacity, I'm going to tell you this, you have to stay away from negative people and negative conversations. Negative people and negative conversations will never increase your capacity. Harold Herring said this, Pastor Harold Herring, he said, we can never be motivated by those who aren't motivated. We can never share dreams with those who aren't dreamers. We can't talk about achieving our goals with those who don't have any. So you hang around with positive people, not negative people. So we're going to hang around with successful, positive people. And then another thing with your capacity is you should know your limits. Like, you should try to figure out what am I created for? What is my limit? At some point you're going to hit your limits. We all are. I keep learning new things. I keep learning new cheats and new ways. Like, wait a minute, okay, I'll give you one that does apply to everybody, but I have a vigorous travel schedule, and I travel out of the country. I'm on a plane all the time. They're giant germ tubes. I'm in them all the time. And I was talking to somebody, and he said, when you travel, do you ever go get vitamin injections? I'm like, what? He's like, do you ever get vitamin injections? I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean? And he goes, oh yeah, whenever I travel and I'm gone, and I'm on the international flight, I come home after being gone and I go into this place. They inject my bloodstream with vitamins. I get 2 weeks worth of vitamins right in there. I get hydrated. It brings me back to normal. I was like, didn't know that. How long you been doing it? He's like, 10 years or whatever. I was like, 10 years? I've never done that. Now I'm doing that. I'm learning a new cheat to help have more vigor in my travel schedule. So you're going to learn things, but you're going to get to a spot where you hit your capacity, and you've got to ask yourself, am I in the right spot, or have I maxed out my capacity? And if I'm not in the right spot, do I need to move? And I'll share this. I went to one of our pastors years ago. He was a music pastor for us, and he was good, but he wasn't great. He was good. And I went up to him and I said, hey, you're good. I'm not seeing that you're going to be a great worship leader for us. I see that you're good, but I would love to have somebody hold the spot that was great. And I said, I'm just seeing good. Now I see in you managerial, I see in you production, I see a lot of technological. You love the technology part of it. So I want to offer you this job to be our production guy and not a worship leader anymore. And I'm just going to tell you this. He was a credentialed minister, bawling in my office, crying, bawling. I went to Bible school to be a music pastor. I said, I get it. I get it. I said, and you have every right to walk out of this room and I'll give you a severance and you can prove me wrong. You can join another church and prove me wrong. You can be you can get on Hillsong album. You can do anything you want. This is what I see as your leader. This is your capacity. As a worship leader, you've hit your capacity. It's unlimited over here. He composes himself, leaves, and I said, I'll give you 3 days to pray about it. So he goes and prays for 3 days, comes back in. I want the production job. I want to do it. Fast forward several years later, he's now leading a region for Live Dead. People report to him. He's not a worship leader. He's a leader. And he's using everything that he learned from going over to production and everything that he learned from that hard conversation and saying, you've hit your capacity here, but you're better over here. And when I'm there with his team, they are singing his praise. Tim is amazing. Tim's amazing. This guy's an incredible leader for Live Dead. And he says to me, he said, Pastor Rob, the worst day of my life in the, like my career, and the best day was the day you told me I'd hit my capacity limit as a worship leader, but I had unlimited over here. And he said, I took that and now look at me. I'm leading a whole area of Live Dead. And he said, thank you for the hard conversation. Thank you as a leader that you were willing to tell me the truth, that I really had hit my capacity. So these are ways to do it. And then the last thing I'll tell you, if you're going to increase your capacity, just stay committed to the hard work. Like if it was easy, everybody would do it. So grow your capacity. So there's that. I'm just checking the time. We're good on time. We got about 12 minutes to go through this. Now, can I just verify you didn't get the handout. Can somebody verify that to me? Okay, we do not have it. Okay. I don't know how you're going to see it. I'm going to hold it up there as close. Here's what I'll do. I'll cover my screen and then you guys all get your cameras out and you can take a picture of it. Maybe that'll work. All right. So we'll try to see if this works. I don't know if it's in focus. If it's in focus.
Good. It's good.
All right. So if you can get that.
Keep holding it.
And it's as I wobble back and forth, it kind of, but you're going to get the picture of it. You got it?
Yeah.
All right. So this is something we came up with at River Valley. Now I'm going to glasses. I preach in 20 fonts, so I don't need glasses. But when things are small, baby, the readers are coming out. When I went to the doctor, when I needed readers, I said, what can I do? Can I do some eye exercise or something to make them stronger? And he goes, you can get younger. And I was like, yeah, it's not going to work. All right. So the readers come up. So if you caught this, this is our competencies and our growth plan. And if you saw it well enough, and you got the picture, we have competencies for everyone that is on our team. We have competencies for emerging leaders, and then we have leaders of leaders and leaders of others, and then leaders of leaders. So we have 4 categories going across this. And I want to explain, underneath everyone in emerging leaders is a ministry we do here called First Up. So whenever anyone is in their first year of ministry at River Valley Church, regardless custodian or executive pastor, doesn't matter. If you're in your first year at River Valley Church, you have to join First Up, okay? And that means you're in the group where everybody learns, how do we pray in faith? How do we do our hospital visits? Who are we connected to? Like, we're going to explain, we're Assemblies of God. And if you aren't fully aware, this is how it works. There's a superintendent, an executive presbyters, and a general presbyter. Like, we go through, explain that. We explain how our church works. We talk about finances, how we make faith, goals with our giving. We train them in all of our 7 values that we have: presence of God, our next generation, we praise them in generosity. We teach them in all of our 7 values. That's all part of this year-long thing. We give them assigned reading. Everybody is in First Up. And then between emerging leaders and leaders of others, we have a thing called Next Up. And you'll get this chart, and everything I'm saying is going to make sense when you see it in higher definition and you get to see it. But Next up is for people that we say, we see on you leadership potential more. We don't want you to just think that you're a youth pastor for this campus. We actually see you as there's more in you. You could either be over a section of youth pastors, maybe you're going to be over the whole youth department, or maybe there's something in you that you'll move departments and you'll be a campus pastor or a department head. So we're going to train you, and we're going to do a multi-year process of training you in Next Up. Now, in order to get in Next Up, somebody in the organization has to say, hey, we hired Andrew. Andrew's got the it factor. Like, we see way more in him, and they get nominated to be part of Next Up. And then they're taught by myself, our executive team, and we do that. And then the next one is Lead Up. Anybody that's a leader already, we're not going to leave you there. We want to develop you. So either I'm going to help you with coaching and mentoring, or we're going to hire a coach or mentor for you. Maybe Sam Chand, Michael Murphy, Phil Cook. Like, we're going to hire somebody to coach you while you're within our organization, and we're going to give you access to, you want to get certified by John Maxwell, you want to get certified by Sam Chand as a coach, you want to work on your master's degree, you want to join a cohort at Harvard. You understand? Lead Up. So first up, Next Up, Lead Up. Like, we don't want you to stay where you are. We want you to keep increasing your capacity there. And then underneath that, you'll see Coach Up. Now, Coach Up is not a good thing. Coach Up means we love you, and we're going to coach you up to the level we think you need to be at. And if you can't get there, we're going to have to make the hard decision and try to find a new place for you somewhere else. And so it could be a performance improvement plan. It could just be that you're not functioning at the level we thought you were. So we're going to coach you up and see if the skill set we thought was there can be developed. And if after Coach Up it isn't, then we're gonna call it a day. Like, we're literally gonna say, hey, this didn't work. We made a mistake. You probably have different gifts that we don't see. Or more likely, the Coach Up is a specific development goal that is there for them, that either, like, say, a campus pastor is just mean to their staff. Like, that's just the way they think they're supposed to lead. We're like, no, we're going to coach you up. I'll give one, because you don't know our staff, our names, but we had a staff member that was lying. And they would just come in late, but they lied. And so we said, hey, you're on a performance improvement plan. You're late, you're causing the team to lose morale. And we think you have a lying problem. We want to coach you up. You might think that you're telling the truth, but we're going to point out to you that, you're not doing that. We had another person that wasn't lying, but it was cornering language. We said, we need to put you on a coach up plan, because you use cornering language when you deal with your peers. This person would do this. They'd say, nobody has a better campus than me, do they? Well, how are you supposed to answer that? Yeah, they do. They're like, you're not that good. So they'd lead you like, nobody has a better campus than me, do they? Nobody loves you more than I do they? This would be the way to do it. And if we didn't do this, we wouldn't be obeying God, would we? And it was cornering language that caused all their direct reports to be like, I can't argue. Like, if I argue against, like, God, I think, and definitely against him. And so that was a performance improvement plan. So, all right, we got 5 minutes. I'll wrap it up and we'll get to questions. So you couldn't see maybe your picture. I don't know how clear it was, but we think everyone needs functioning skills, self-development, like they need to work on it. They need to be buoyant. Can they come back from a setback? They need to have personal accountability in themselves. They need to have time management skills. They need to have a strong work ethic. They need to have biblical ethics and integrity, and they need to be mission focused, okay? That they are on mission with us. Then we move to our emerging leaders. If you're going to be an emerging leader at River Valley, you need to be an includer. That means you're just bringing people in on the journey with you, that you're teachable, that you're a problem solver, that you have good communication skills. Like you can't be an emerging leader with bad communication skills, that you have organizational knowledge. Like it makes sense to you when things are organized and you understand this, what we're doing. You have the capacity to carry more. You have emotional intelligence, which right there, if you don't have emotional intelligence, you're not an emerging leader. Like you have to have that. And then you have to be a finisher. Like there's a lot of people that start and then we got to finish it for you, but we want you to be a finisher. Okay, then leaders of others are listed there. You have to be able to have conflict management. That's a skill set you've got to have. I guarantee you, if I asked Bill, like, what are the things that you spend the time conflict? I gotta get this guy to see this guy isn't crazy and them not quit, and it's you have to have that. You have to have coaching skills. Like if you're gonna be a leader of others, you have to be able to coach them and make them better. Team development, like you have to be able to have a team and work with it. You can't be leaders of others and be a lone ranger. We had somebody the other day that quit, and I said, you probably are best off by yourself. You have lots of gifts, but you're a solo athlete because the team, you're not making the team better. You have to have approachability. You cannot have don't touch me if you're going to be a leader of leaders at River Valley. You have to be able to delegate. You have to have general management skills. You have to have performance management, like that you hold people accountable to goals and to the performance. And you have to be a collaborator because your department is going to have to work with other departments as a leader of others. Now we get to leader of leaders. And what's beautiful about this is everyone in our church on our team can look at it and go, and even ask for honest feedback. Like what of these don't I have and what do I need to work on? And then leader of leaders, organizational vision, courageous and decisive. You have to be a spirit-led shepherd. You have to have an influential presence. You have to have business and financial acumen. You have to be a culture champion, which, by the way, leaders of leaders, the senior pastor, the lead pastor, the leaders of departments, you must be culture carriers and keepers. So we call it that, a culture champion. And then you need to be grounded and steady. We can't be like dealing with moodiness of somebody that's a leader of leaders. Now, if you're an emerging leader, we're going to deal with it and tell you like, hey, that was unacceptable. You were just way too moody. But I can't have you doing that as a leader of leaders. So you need to be grounded and steady. And we also can't have you being flipped around by false doctrine. Like we just had a doctrinal issue that, again, I know that people differ on this, but I see nothing in the Bible of a born again believer having a demon possess them. I know we're using the word demonize, and we could say they antagonize. There's the war against the flesh, the world, and the devil. But like we had one of our campus pastors saying, yep, all of our Christians that are on my campus have to be like delivered of the demons that are in them, you know? And I'm like, nobody has demons in them except the drummer. That's obvious, you know? So, but you got to be grounded and steady if you're going to be a leader of leaders. I can't have you like going off on doctrinal issues and then you're like, I'm not sure that, you know, you're going to speak in tongues. No, you're going to speak in tongues. You get to speak in tongues. Like, so leader of leaders. And then consistent and congruent. So I love this about our competencies and our strategies. You can use that. If you want more about first up, next up, lead up, we have some on our River Valley network. We are shipping this out. We shared this with a couple of church consultants and they're like, we want to take this. Like you could just see the ding, 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 ding. They're like, this is money. And I'm like, God has called us to try to give as much away as we can to keep trusting him and give the resources out. It doesn't mean that we won't coach this or put it in a book or a training manual, but right now we're giving it to you and having you have that so you can see what we see as the competencies and the strategy to see people on the growth trajectory through our organization. So time for questions. Glasses are coming off and fire away.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. Rob, thank you so much for your time today. Question real quickly before I get to all these lists here. As you were going through your strategies and competencies, people in your organization, do they know where they fall? Have you
Yes.
communicated that to them? Do other people on the team know where they fall?
Yes. So you would know if you're first up, and then if you're next up, you would know because somebody has to recommend you. And so let's say you're the connections pastor at the Shakopee campus, and you say, hey, I want to be a next up. Well, one of two people can recommend for you to be a next up, either the head over all connections or your campus pastor. So you would go to them and say, hey, can I get nominated for next up? And this would be their opportunity to say, well, I want to, but a couple of things, your emotional intelligence is holding you back. And there's a couple of things that are keeping you back from this. And if you would work on this, I'd love to recommend you for the next time we start next up. And it starts on like every 6 months or so we start a new one, and you can get in that cohort. So it allows them that feedback. So they would know, but unless you blabbed it to everybody, then people would not know that you got rejected for next up. And then no one would know that you're in a coach up other than your bosses. Because, with confidentiality, we would not tell everybody like, hey, they're on a performance improvement plan, they're not doing good. Just the person would know. And then if that makes sense.
Okay, so it's mostly your executive team would know. Your
Correct.
executive team knows. Okay. So I'm going to kind of back up all the way back to the beginning. I've got questions that have come through since you started. Some of the stuff that you were talking about, your word for the year, trying to think what it was.
Take ground.
Taking ground. I was going to say moving ground, but taking ground right there. One of the questions that came through is, what does a Sabbath look like for your staff? What is the balance of keeping them busy, but not yet burning out as you're asking them to take ground?
It's a great question. Because when I said this about adding the extra service, I gave my whole team permission. I said, listen, if we need to close the offices Thursday and Friday because of the extra service load, I'm going to do it. I want to do whatever allows us to keep our inheritance. I did a teaching on this. I think I did it at our conference last year. How fast can you go? You can go as fast as you keep your inheritance. And your inheritance is your children. So you're going to go as fast in ministry as you can keep your children loving Jesus. And so some people have a capacity to go faster, others don't. And I'm not going to, but I'll use this. One of the ghostwriters I used for one of my books, his wife could not handle the speed of ministry. And he had a call in his life. He's like, she could not handle it. And so he said, I'm going to step out of pastoral ministry and I'm going to use my gift to be a ghostwriter for pastor. He literally said, I will not lose my inheritance, my marriage and my children, and I will step away. So that's part of it. I'm willing to change whatever is needed. But I lecture my staff every August. I give them what I call the vacation rebuke. And at the end of August, I say, if you are not on pace to use up all your vacation in a timely manner, and you've got to cram it in December, you have stolen from River Valley, because I gave you vacation to take, and I wanted to fresh you with a happy spouse and happy children that got to go to Disney or wherever, the beach or wherever. And if you didn't do that, you literally stole from me by not using your vacation. It's September 1st. You have 4 months to use your vacation. Do not cram it all in December. So as fast as I want to go, I want us to bring our inheritance. And I'll give you this, like Matt Nyland, one of our campus pastors, his dad was dying of cancer. And side note, this has nothing to do with the pace, but I want to share it. We pray for healing for anyone that's suffering and fighting cancer until the person fighting cancer says, I would like to go to be with Jesus. And we tell people in our church, we're going to pray for healing until you say, because we're not going to be double-minded. We're going to pray, take them or heal them or give them peace or heal them. You get to decide where the prayer is going. And when you say it, so anyway, side note. So his dad got to where he's like, guys, we've been praying for months. And unless Jesus heals me, like we've been praying and fasting, I'm going to see him. And so we'll still keep praying. Like if God wants to do a midnight miracle, we're good. But I think I'm going to see Jesus in the next couple of weeks. And I called Matt and I said, Matt, take as much time as you need with your dad. Don't worry about the campus. They're going to understand right now. You'll never get a chance to go back and spend more time with your dad. take every ounce that you can, and whatever you feel good about, know that I'm not condemning you, because when your dad's gone, you're going to put your hand to the plow again. But like in this season, you need to be the son that you need to be, and you'll never get that opportunity again. Go do it. We know what he did. He did exactly what I said. He was with his dad. You know what it did for me? He's like, I'll run through a brick wall for you. I'll take ground, because when I needed the time to literally minister to my family, you gave it to me, and then you expect a high return over here. So, you know, that's the way we've managed it.
I like that. I think what I'm hearing now, as you just explained, is it's so important that you do challenge, that you hold people to a standard, but it also sounds like you care very well for your people. And so I think that's the message that we need to hear in that.
Yep.
A question here: when we think of smaller churches, how does this coach up work with smaller church staff and mostly volunteers? How do you navigate
Yeah.
them?
Okay. So here's something we've noticed when we've been doing our generosity accelerators, and anytime we teach anything from River Valley, you know, we have, you know, 8,500 on a weekend, 9 campuses, soon to be 10. We have 200 deacons, because we call deacons servant project managers. They actually report to the pastors rather than boss the pastors. So it's flipped at River Valley. And so people say like, it's too big, it's too big, it's too big. Like when we did our first generosity accelerator, we're talking millions, and they're like, no. All the churches that were there were like, give us somebody that went from like 60,000 and went up. And so we found Dave Simerson in Austin, and he went from 60,000 to 800,000. And he's saying like, I'm in Austin, Minnesota, Spam Town, USA, church town of 20,000. Like, this worked. So if I'm saying something and you're like, how does that work? Okay, take this, and somebody there figure out a training plan. Like, think about this. These are the core competencies as a member of our church. These are the core competencies of a leader of a ministry. These are the core competencies of a deacon in our church. You see what I'm saying? You could literally do this exact same thing and get your congregation. Here's for the church, here's for the leader of the ministry, here's for the deacon, and you could like, and you make that, you put your logo on there, and you coach people for it.
That's really good. I like that. What advice would you give a leader who feels that they are a higher capacity, but yet feel capped in their current role, but they don't want to leave the leader that they're under?
So there's a whole teaching I did this on striving versus seizing. Ahimaaz is in the battle, and he's like, I want to run with the news to David, and his leader's like, no, you don't. It's bad news. And it's almost like he's like, you're holding me back. You're holding me back. And his leader was like, no, you don't want to deliver the bad news to David. Like, you don't want to. And he's like, let me run. And he's like, all right, run. And he gives him no real message, just busy work. And it's interesting. David even says, isn't that Ahimaaz? Isn't that so-and-so's son? Like, leaders see potential in people, and you got to believe that. And you don't want to run with busy work message. And you got to ask yourself, am I learning under this leader and there's an agitation to go do more, or am I trying to get somewhere where I'm not ready for? So you're going to have to determine that. But if you determine that you have more in you that's being used, prove your point. Here's what I'd say. Prove your point. Like, I had a campus pastor that worked for me once. He's like, there's more in me, man. There's more in me. Like, you had a campus of over 1,000. Like, there's more in me. I'm leaving. I'm going to go do my own thing. And I kept thinking, like, there's more in you. Like, grow this church. Like, add another service. Like, don't settle at 1,000. Like, go to the next level. And then he went out and did his own thing, and it's not going very good. And my thing was, I think he didn't want to do the things that would increase his capacity. He wanted to do the things that would increase his followers or his platform. And you got to ask yourself, do you want to do things to increase your followers and platform or your capacity? Now, if you have more in you, you'll probably know this. The first church I was in, I was kind of embarrassed. I took a youth group, from like 12 kids to like 80. The church was running about 400. When the pastor was gone, I'd preach. I also then became the worship leader. I got too much coming my way. And I noticed around the church that people were starting to sing the song like Saul has killed his thousands, but David his tens of thousands. And I was like, I got to get out of here for my own like well-being, because people are singing my praises more than my bosses. And as loyal as I am, it's too often that they're saying this, and I got to get out of here. And I left respectfully and great. I took another church, and I said, I think there's more in me. And I respectfully left, and I didn't, never are you going to burn things down. I didn't say there's more in me. I just said, this is a new journey. It's a new challenge that we're going to do. And, I went to a larger youth group, but if people are singing those songs and you feel it overall, not just when you preach. Like I always tell our staff, when you preach once a year, like you get a year to prepare. I got to prepare every 7 days. I got to come up with a new one. Don't live on the praises of your once a year sermon. Like tell them, do 5 a year, and then see if they still praising you on your 5th one, so anyways, that's part of it. So, and then the other thing, Tommy Barnett said this to one of my friends. He said, are you in a city big enough for your capacity? And if you are, and you're not growing, then you're the problem. But if you're in a city that's not big enough for your capacity, like Tommy's like, I had to leave a smaller city and go to a bigger city that had the capacity for my dream. Like sometimes you have to do that. Maxwell said that too. Like he was in Hillham, and he's like, I had to leave Hillham and go to San Diego. Like sometimes you have to leave a place that they can't handle the capacity you have on you.
That's good. How do you encourage people to go into the next level of strategy or next level of capacity when they don't see it themselves? You see someone's potential on your team, you see their capacity, you see their abilities, but they don't see it themselves. How do you get them past their own thinking? Can you get them past their own thinking?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's probably one of the best things is an encouraging word, a lifting word. I see more in you. I can't tell you how many people, like one of our elders said to me, said, you saw in me what I never saw. Like when you said you saw that in me, it made me pause. And I think when it comes to increasing capacity, it has to be done with vision and uplift. It's not criticism. Negligent job performance can get criticism, like, hey, I need you to do this, you dropped the ball there, I come on, you cannot do that anymore. But when you're trying to get somebody to increase their capacity, many times they are like Gideon, and you're saying mighty man of faith, they're like, who, me? And you're calling it up in them and what you see. So to me, that's it's there. Where you're like, I see this in you. You might not even see it, but I see it. Others see it,
Okay. One last question here. Is growing in capacity going to require more energy spent, or does more capacity equate to more fruit?
That old adage, like, more, don't work harder, work smarter. Um, I think growing in capacity is going to take hard work, but you unlock things that become time savers, energy savers, and they're out there. So that's part of it. And then, I don't know, like it's hard because the question kind of makes sense to me, but I also have a disconnect. But I do know this, that the more my capacity has grown, the more I get asked to do more things, but I have to keep trimming things that either other people can do or that aren't bearing enough fruit or, aren't replenishing me. And so it's required me to be a steward of my time, a steward of all that. But I don't want people to think that increasing your capacity is like more hours. Like it's, I guess I'm looking for an illustration, but I'm saying like, if you got stronger, like you just need to buy a bigger shirt, and like you're stronger, unless you want to be like our security guard. I always tease them. I'm like, they do sell sizes bigger than girls small. You can get a bigger shirt so your muscles don't bulge like that, so, but you just have to buy a bigger thing to house what is there. And so it's not harder, or it's not more, it's stronger. It's not more, it's different. It's more effective. But there's also, like, you don't get there without working out, without reading, without spending the time, and it's going to cost you money. I remember when I told our church board, I said, because we have an elder board, and I said, guys, I've learned everything I can from the Minnesota pastors. I need to travel outside of here. This is pre-Zoom and all, and I said, I've got to get around bigger thinkers, and I need part of the budget for me to travel and be around these people. And as I did, my capacity grew, and I brought back better ideas, and I became stronger and smarter and more efficient as my capacity grew.
Perfect. So what I hear you saying is, yes, it's going to take energy on the front end, but it also is a play. I think I also kind of heard you say it's important to raise up people to pass off so that you can go higher, in a sense.
Yes.
So you're not necessarily abdicating a role or abdicating an activity. You're giving it away so you can do something different.
Correct.
Cool.
Correct.
Awesome. Rob, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for taking time out for us. Yeah.
It was a joy. Loved it.
We
God
would love
bless.
to pray for you before we dismiss.
Please.
And we thank you for your time and for your investment in us and for your investment to the nation. Seriously, you are someone that is making an impact with your writing, with your preaching, with your leadership, just with all the stuff that you gave us today. So we thank you for that.
Thank you.
God, today, would you stretch your hands to the screen? God, today, we thank you so much for Pastor Rob. We thank you for his heart of generosity. We thank you for his heart of passion. God, I hear passion as he talks about leading, passion as he talks about raising up. God, I pray that you would bless him, that you would strengthen him. God, would you protect him? Would you guard him and his family? God, would you guard him and his church? God, would you go before them? And God, as they are stretching their capacity, take them to new levels, take them to, God, increase their tent stakes, God, as he's even been praying that. God, now thank you for him. Thank you for his church. Thank you for the leaders, the staff that he has. God, I pray that every obstacle that is there, every situation that he is facing and encountering, God, would you give him wisdom beyond human wisdom? God, would you give him strength beyond human strength? And God, that as he is leading, God, he's not just leading his church, he's influencing a nation. And God, we thank you for him. Thank you for his time today. And God, would you just bless him in Jesus' name? Amen.